My grandmother used to say that some people are farmers and some people are wanderers, and the difference isn't good or bad, it's just how they're made. She said this without bitterness. She had spent 30 years being the person who stayed behind to tend things while other people moved on, and she had made a kind of peace with it. She was talking about my mother. She may also have been talking about my father. She was definitely talking about me, not as a wanderer or a farmer, but as something left behind by wanderers that the farmers took in and raised. I was 3 years old when my parents left. Not literally in the same moment. They had already been separated for 2 years by then, but within 18 months of each other, they had both relocated, both started new lives, both had new partners. And both had, through a series of decisions I am still not entirely able to map, arrived at the conclusion that I would be better cared for by my maternal grandparents. I was 3. I don't remember any of it. What I remember is waking up in my grandparents' house. I remember my grandmother's voice. I remember the way their kitchen smelled in the morning. I remember believing, for a long time, that this was simply what family looked like. I remember believing, for a long time, that this was simply what family looked like. I was 17 years old when my father called and told me he wanted me to meet my siblings. I had 4 of them. I had not known they existed. Hello. Before we begin, please subscribe if you're new here. It keeps these stories coming, and it's completely free. Let's continue. Chapter 1. The house on Clement Street. My grandparents, Robert and June, lived in a 2-story house in a medium-sized city in eastern Tennessee that I will call Harlow. The house had green shutters and a porch that sagged slightly on the left side, and a backyard with 2 oak trees that were older than anyone still living. Robert was a retired machinist. June had been a school librarian. They were in their early 60s when they became, effectively, my parents. They did not complain about this. What they showed me was uncomplicated love and unreserved commitment. Robert taught me to fish and to change a tire and to play chess badly. June read to me every night until I told her I was old enough to read to myself. At which point she started leaving books on my pillow instead. When I had a nightmare, it was June's voice I looked for. When I needed to understand something about the world, it was Robert I asked. I called them Grandma and Grandpa. Chapter 2. What I knew about my parents. Not much, and mostly by design. Not their design, but June's. June believed that I should have accurate information about my situation without being burdened by adult complexity. So the story I was given was this. My parents were young and not ready to be parents when I was born. They loved me, but they were not able to take care of me. My grandparents were taking care of me because they were good at it. What was not said, and which I pieced together gradually, my parents had made active choices. My father had moved to Phoenix when I was 3.5. My mother had moved to Portland 18 months after that. Neither had fought for custody. My mother called twice a year, my birthday and Christmas. The calls were cordial and slightly excruciating. She asked about school, I asked about Portland. We avoided the obvious. My father called less than that, maybe once a year. I cannot tell you I was devastated. By the time I was old enough to process it, it had simply always been this way. June and Robert were my parents. The other 2 were like characters from a book I'd been told I was in, but hadn't read. Chapter 3. High school. I was doing well. I want to say that clearly because complicated things happen to people who are doing well all the time. I had good grades. I ran cross country. I had a tight group of friends, including my best friend Terrence, who had also been raised by his grandparents. Terrence and I used to joke about our ghost parents, the biological generators who had phased out. It was a way of making it manageable. Junior year was when things were going best. I had a 4.1 GPA. Robert had started teaching me car maintenance. June let me cook dinner. Then my father called, in February, which was not his usual pattern. Chapter 4. The call. He called on a Wednesday evening. I was studying chemistry. The call was different. He was warmer. He asked about my running, my college plans, suggesting he'd received a briefing. Then he said he wanted to talk about something important. He wanted a real relationship before it was too late. I was almost 18. He wanted me to come to Phoenix over spring break to meet his family. I said, "What family?" He said he was married, Christine. They had 4 children together, ages 8, 10, 12, and 14. That meant when I was 3 and being absorbed into my grandparents' house, he was already building a new family. I sat with that arithmetic for a long time. Chapter 5. The conversation with my grandparents. I told June and Robert that night. June went very still. Robert stood at the sink with his back to us. Then he asked how I was feeling. I said I didn't know yet. I asked June if she knew. She had known he remarried, but not the timing. Robert said, "What do you want to do?" He didn't tell me what I should want. He asked what I wanted. I spent 3 weeks thinking about it. Chapter 6. What I was actually angry about. It wasn't the absence, it was the timing. When I was 3, he hadn't been an overwhelmed young man. He had been a man beginning a deliberate construction project. He left the previous site before the concrete had set. His oldest child with Christine was born when I was 3. The year my grandparents took over was the year he was starting over with someone else. He didn't leave because he couldn't handle fatherhood. He left because he preferred a different family. That is different entirely. Chapter 7. Spring break. I went to Phoenix. Robert said the only thing worse than going would be wondering what I'd missed. June drove me to the airport. She said, "You don't owe anyone anything. You go, you see what you see, and you come home." I flew to Phoenix on a Sunday. My father met me at baggage claim. He looked older than I expected, gray at his temples. He hugged me. It was the first time I could remember him hugging me. The drive was filled with careful small talk. I watched the desert go by. Chapter 8. The family. Christine was waiting with the 4 kids arranged in what felt like a rehearsed formation: Noah, Jordan, Caleb, and Amara. They were good kids, curious and slightly awkward, trying to figure out what an older brother meant. That week was strange and real. Strange because these people shared my last name but lived without any awareness of me. Real because they were genuinely trying. I was civil. I let Caleb show me games. I took Amara on walks. I talked college with Noah. Chapter 9. The conversation with my father. On the last night, we sat on the back patio. He had a beer, I had iced tea. He talked about being 22, the drowning feeling of the past, and meeting Christine. He said, "I told myself I was doing what was best for you." I asked, "Do you believe that?" He said, "I believe that's what I needed to tell myself." I told him Robert and June are my parents, the real ones. They showed up. I said, "I'm telling you this so you understand where I'm starting from." He nodded. He just wanted to be something. Chapter 10. Coming home. June picked me up. She asked if I was okay. I told her everything. She said, "How are you feeling now?" I told her I'd stay in touch with the kids. They didn't do anything wrong. My father and I might build something. I'm not in a hurry. I asked, "You know you're my mom, right?" She patted my hand. She said, "I know." She said having room for more people didn't take anything away. I don't know if I've ever loved anyone more than I loved her in that moment. Chapter 11. Where things are now. I'm 19 now, studying kinesiology. I text Noah occasionally. Amara sent me a drawing of a stick figure with nice eyes. It's on my dorm wall. My father and I talk once a month. It's real, but careful. I'm staying open. Robert had a health scare, but he's okay now. June cried when I got there. These are my people. This is my bedrock. I share this story because the anger and grief are real, but so is the possibility of something more complete than bitterness. The wanderers go, the farmers stay and tend. I was left behind by wanderers. I was raised by farmers. I think I got the better end of that deal. Share this if it resonated. Subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next video.